everyone, and welcome back to our Christmas craft extravaganza. Today I've got something extra special for you. 3 fun and festive trios of crafts. That's right, we're diving into 3 sets of 3 unique DIY projects that will help you deck the halls, wrap up your gifts, and spread holiday cheer. Hi, my name is Katie from Lady Red Crafting. Whether you're a crafting pro or just a beginner, these simple yet stunning ideas will have you in the holiday spirit. Let's get started with our first trio of crafts. While browsing through the Dollar Tree, I found this fun decor piece and these adorable wood cutouts. And so I'm going to start out with using this wood cutout and my hot glue. And all I'm doing here is I'm going to draw some little swags on the top of my tree. Next, I grabbed these dot stickers from the Dollar Tree and I'm just going to add them to my tree as little ornaments. And you might have noticed there I did cover the hole on the top of the tree where the hanger was. So now that we have all of our dots attached to our tree, I'm going to grab a paintable surface and tape down our tree. Using some Aleene's tacky glue, I'm just going to add that to the top of our tree, and I'm going to just paint that on using a paintbrush. Next, I just grabbed out some aluminum foil, and I'm going to tear off a sheet big enough to cover my little tree. Now I'm just grabbing a dry paintbrush and I'm just going to tap that down over the top of the foil just so that it can get into all the different grooves on our tree. And once you are satisfied with your tree, I'm going to go ahead and grab my Luxe metallic white paint and I'm going to just do a nice coat of paint over the top of my tree. Now that the paint has dried, I did grab out my Mod Podge and I'm going to use my hard surface Mod Podge to seal everything in. Once everything is really nice and dry, I went ahead and I grabbed my zip sander, but you could use a sanding block, a razor blade, or an emery board to do this. But I'm just going to sand in a downward motion to remove any excess foil. Now let's go back to that decor piece that we had from the Dollar Tree. I am going to flip this over and deconstruct it by just removing the staples on the back. Now that we have our sign deconstructed, I'm going to save the beads and the twine for a later craft. So I'm going to flip these back over and next I'm just going to spray these down with a little bit of water and I'm going to lay a paper towel over the top just to moisten up the paper. After a few minutes, I did take my little scraping tool here and I scraped as much of the paper off that I could. This doesn't need to be perfect. We're going to be gluing something over the top of this. Now, I found this gorgeous placemat at the Dollar Tree, and I found it right at the end of the summer, so between the summer and the fall season. I'm not sure if your Dollar Tree will still have them, but if they do, grab them. They are so much fun to craft with. Let's go ahead and flip this placemat over, and using that square that we were prepping earlier, I'm just going to place that down on my placemat and then draw out the shape. And next, you guessed it, we're just going to cut out this square. And after a quick fit check, I'm going to go ahead and set that aside for a moment, and we're going to tape down our square to a paintable surface. And using some multi-surface satin black, I'm going to go ahead and just paint the back side of this square. And don't forget to get all the way around the square, even on the edges, because those might show as well. Now, while that is drying, I am going to go ahead and cut out a 10-inch piece of satin ribbon. Next, I'm going to shape that ribbon into a little fish shape, and we're going to use some hot glue and secure that together. Next, we're just going to flip our little square over and we're going to add that piece to the back side where the black paint is. And I'm just going to glue that to the corner of our piece. And this will be our hanger for our ornament here. And I just wanted everything to be seamless on the back side. So that's why I painted everything black. I know some of you out there don't like that I use black all the time. It just matches my decor, but you guys can do any color that you want. So if you want to paint this white, green, red, just go crazy and do whatever you'd like. Next, I'm going to flip this back over and using my quick and thick Tannenbaum, I'm just going to paintbrush a layer of that glue onto the front side of this sign. I'm just going to place that piece of placemat over the top of that glue and press that down. And now this is definitely starting to look like an ornament. I just love how this gold and the black looks together. So I'm going to grab our tree that we made earlier and using our quick and thick Tannenbaum again, I'm just going to go ahead and put some of that glue on our tree. And I will use a paintbrush and paint this down a little bit. And then we're just going to center that right onto our piece. And here's our first piece in our trio set. I just love how this tree turns out. I feel like this looks so high end. Now for our second ornament, we are going to use one of these snowman cutouts from the Dollar Tree, and I'm going to do the exact same thing like we did to the tree, where we use the hot glue, the foil, and then we're going to paint. But this one I am going to do a little bit more detail on the painting, where I paint the snowman hat something different and his little nose. And once our snowman is complete, I'm going to take that Tannenbaum glue again, and I'll use my paintbrush and paint that down a little bit, and we'll put that snowman right onto our ornament. And isn't this snowman so beautiful? I just love how this turns out. Our second little ornament is all set for our trio. Now to vary it up for our third ornament, I am going to be using one of these little grapevine wreaths, and I'm taking some of my Tannenbaum glue and I'm going to glue that wreath onto our ornament. And to ensure a quick hold, I did use a little bit of hot glue in between where I put the Tannenbaum. Now, once our wreath is added, you could stop here, but I wanted to add a little bit more. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take these balls that were on a pick that I had, and I believe I got this pick from Hobby Lobby. If I didn't get it from there, it might have been Walmart. And I'm just taking some of these leftover berries, and I'm going to glue them onto our wreath. And while I'm gluing this onto my wreath, I did want to ask that if you haven't subscribed yet, and if you're enjoying this content, could you please hit that subscribe button below? I'm really trying to hit that 20,000 subscriber mark, and I don't usually make a plea like this, but I'm at 16,400 right now, and I really would like to make it there, hopefully by February 12th. So if you haven't hit that subscribe button, if you could do that, that would be great. Thank you so much. I hope you enjoyed this content. Now, once we have all of these berries onto our wreath, I am going to go ahead and pick a bow to put on the top. And I couldn't decide at first if I wanted to do a black bow or a cream bow, and I ended up going with the black bow. And now once our bow is glued to the top of our wreath, our ornament is complete. And I just love how this little wreath turns out. This is such a great addition to our trio set. All three of these ornaments turned out amazing. I love that they're similar, but completely different. I would love to hear from you. Which one do you like better? Do you like the snowman, the tree, or the wreath? Please let me know in the comments below. Let's transform these 3 fabric bags from the Crafter Square section at the Dollar Tree into some festive little packages for the Christmas tree. For the first one here, we're going to start out with a napkin, and this napkin I got last year at HomeGoods. It's still one of my favorite Christmas napkins. And one of the things that you do when you're doing decoupage on a bag like this is I always add a little piece of cardboard into the bag, so that way when we're painting down the Mod Podge, it doesn't seep through to the other side. Now to prep our napkin, I'm going to unfold this napkin, and then I'm going to take a little piece of painter's tape and pull off the bottom 2 layers of this napkin. Next, I'm going to go ahead and trim this napkin to fit on the cover of our little bag. And you want to make sure you get this trimmed right to the way that you would like it. And I wanted it to go from end to end, so that is how I trimmed it. You can do it however you like. Now, if you don't have a Christmas napkin you like, Christmas tissue paper works really well. So you could use that instead of the napkin. Now, once we have our napkin trimmed the way we would like it, I am grabbing my fabric Mod Podge, and I'm going to go ahead and paint a coat of that Mod Podge over the top of our bag. And since this is a small bag, I am just doing the whole entire bag. But if you were using this for a larger piece, you may want to do this in sections. Now, while the Mod Podge is still wet, I'm going to gently lay down our napkin on top. Then I'm going to grab some cling wrap, and I'm going to put a layer of cling wrap over the top of the napkin. And then I'm going to just take my hands and lightly smooth out the napkin. And this is an optional step, but I did take my little roller here and I just rolled the napkin into place just to make sure there were no wrinkles. Then I'm going to pull off my cling wrap and let this dry. And once everything has dried, I go ahead and take that same Mod Podge and I'm going to do a coat over the top and seal everything in. And once everything has completely dried, I'm going to go ahead and open up our bag and remove our piece of cardboard. And now we have an adorable little canvas bag to match all your Christmas decor. Now on to our second bag. For this bag, we're going to use this cozy fabric that I found at the Dollar Tree, and we're not going to use very much of it, just a little bit. So let's roll this out. Next, I grabbed one of my wood cutouts from the Dollar Tree, and I'm going to use this as a stencil. So I flip the fabric over, and then I'm taking that wood cutout, and I'm just using a pencil, and I'm just going to trace that onto our fabric. If you don't have a wood cutout that you'd like to use, another idea would be to use your Christmas cookie cutters. And now for our next step, we're just going to cut out our little tree. And once our tree is ready, we're going to go ahead and take some hot glue and hot glue that to the front of our little bag. Once our tree is added to the bag, I am going to just hot glue a little bow to the top of my tree, but you could also glue like a little star or something like that, or leave it the way it is. And here's a really neutral little bag that I think would be very fun for Christmas. Now on to bag number 3. For this bag, we are going to use a handful of buttons. And what I love about using buttons is there's so many different colors and varieties, so you can make this so different for each one. So for this one, I am just going to make a simple little wreath, and I'm just doing a little pattern with my buttons that I have here. And once I'm satisfied with the placement of my buttons, I grab my hot glue, and I'm just going to hot glue each button onto our bag. And once we have all of our buttons glued onto our bag, I take my hot glue and I'm just going to put a little bit of hot glue on that top button and add a bow to our wreath. That's all there is to it. This simple little bag is all ready to use to wrap up some Christmas cheer. Now here are all 3 of the bags that we made in this trio set. I just love how these all turned out. They're so unique and so festive. And what's so much fun about this craft is you could do this any time of the year for any holiday. Now Now let's make a trio of ornaments. I found these adorable ornaments at the Dollar Tree, and 3 of them didn't match my decor, so we are going to remake them. First thing I'm going to do is just remove all the bows and the hangers that came with these ornaments, and we'll save those for another craft. Next, to remove everything off of these ornaments, I just spritz them with a little bit of water, add a paper towel over the top so everything soaks in, and then I'm going to just go ahead and take a scraping tool here and just scrape all of the excess off. I did take my heat tool and made sure that the ornament was nice and dry before I sanded anything extra off of the front. And once I'm satisfied with my removal of everything on the front of these, I'm going to go ahead and get started making them over. Now for the first 2 ornaments, they're going to be very similar. I'm using a napkin that I found at HomeGoods, which is a great place to find adorable napkins at. And I like this one because of the foil inlay on one of the quadrants here. So I'm actually going to go ahead and remove the back 2 layers of this napkin, and we're going to use that foil piece for our ornament. Now going back to our ornament, I'm going to tape that down to a paintable surface, and using my Waverly chalk paint in the color plaster, we're going to do a nice coat of paint over the top of the front of the ornament. And once that paint has completely dried, I am going to use my hard coat Mod Podge here, and I'm just going to go ahead and paint a nice coat of the Mod Podge over the top of the ornament. And once that is completely dry, I'm going to go back to that napkin we prepped earlier and lay that over the top of our ornament. And once I'm satisfied with the position of the napkin, I'm going to take a piece of parchment paper and layer that over the top of the napkin. And then we'll grab our iron and iron that napkin right on top of the ornament. And before we do anything else, I am going to grab my Mod Podge and just do a quick coat over the top of the ornament. And this will allow the napkin to seal in. And once that is completely dry, I am going to grab my zip sander and I'm going to sand around the outside edge of the ornament in a downward motion. Next, I'm going to take my ornament and flipping it over and putting it on a paintable surface. I am going to take my Flamenco Red from Apple Barrel and I'm going to paint the back side of this ornament. Then I decided to paint the perimeter of the ornament as well with the same red paint. Now, this worked out pretty well having this taped down to a piece of cardboard, but it did get a little bit of that red on the front side of our ornament, which at first I thought was not going to be good, but it turned out to look amazing. Now, once everything is dry, here is what the front side of our ornament looks like. I am going to just take my little weeding tool from Cricut, and I'm just going to poke the hole back through so I can put this ribbon through to make a hanger. And for our final touch, I am going to add a little bow to the top of the ornament. And I started out with a sheer bow, and then I added a gold bow over the top of it. And that's all there is to it. This first little ornament is complete. I just love how it turns out. Now for our second ornament, when I did the red around the perimeter, it did not look as pretty as it did on that first one. So what I did was I took a little baby wipe and I'm just going to wipe the excess paint off of it. And the paint was still wet, so it came off very easily. And now once everything was dry, I went ahead and I returned the ornament to our piece of cardboard. And I grabbed my Delta Creative Gold Metallic Paint. And I'm going to take a dry brush here and I'm just going to dry brush around the outside of the ornament. Then I grabbed my Cricut tool and I went ahead and I just poked the hole back in so I could string my ribbon through to make a hanger. And once we have a hanger on this adorable ornament, I am going to add a double gold bow, and this ornament will be complete. So it looks a lot like that first one, but just with a little bit more gold in it. And it still has that red on the back to make sure that the ornament is finished on both sides. Now moving on to ornament number 3. So for this ornament, I wanted to bring the candy cane into it. So I'm using this DIY set from the Dollar Tree, and I'm going to pull out that candy cane from it. And the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to take some clippers and I'm going to clip the little tabs off the top of the candy canes. And using my zip sander, I'll just sand over the top just to make sure everything is nice and rounded. Next, I'm going to tape this down to a paintable surface, and using my Waverly chalk paint in the color white, I'm going to give a nice coat of paint over the top of these candy canes. I only did one coat of paint on these candy canes because I still wanted to see the lines on the candy canes through the paint. And using my Mod Podge, I'm going to take a thin brush here, and I'm just going to go ahead and paint a little bit of Mod Podge on every other stripe on the candy cane. And while that Mod Podge is still wet, I am going to grab out some red sparkle glitter. And I'm just going to put a piece of paper underneath my candy cane here, so that way any of the excess glitter will fall onto that. And I'm just going to sprinkle that over the top of the candy cane, and then you'll see the beautiful stripes starting to show through. And then we just keep repeating the same step on the next candy cane until all of the red has been added to our candy cane. Once you ensure that everything is really nice and dry, we're going to repeat the same steps, but this time we're going to be doing white glitter instead of the red. So we'll put the Mod Podge in between the different stripes and then add our white glitter. And once you're satisfied with the white glitter, we'll go ahead and clean up our mess and then ensure that everything is nice and dry before we seal everything in. And once we know that everything is dry, I am going to take that same Mod Podge and I'm going to do a coat over the top, and I'm going to let this sit for about a half an hour. So I like to add different textures and things into my crafts. So I found this adorable gold placemat at the Dollar Tree, and I'm taking a small piece from it and I'm going to trace on the back side of it the ornament. Next, I just grab a pair of scissors and I just trim the ornament out. And this is really easy to cut, so don't worry about it. It cuts very nicely with scissors. Now, going back to our candy cane, I am going to add a few little embellishments to the candy cane. We are going to take a few pieces of greenery and I'm just going to hot glue them to the center where that bow used to be. And then over the top of that greenery, I'm going to add a little black bow. And now we're just going to put everything together. And some of this stuff I didn't get on camera, and I don't know how that happened. But I did paint the back side of this ornament red, and I glued the placemat onto the front of the ornament. And for this one, I wanted to use a black ribbon, so to feed that through to make a hanger out of it, I had to use my Cricut tool there to get it to go through. Now, once we have our hanger made, we can go ahead and add that candy cane to the center. And to glue that candy cane on, I did use my Titebond Quick and Thick with a little bit of hot glue. And now this adorable candy cane ornament is complete. And I think this goes with our other two ornaments amazing. I just love how all three of these ornaments turned out. And this is such a fun trio set with a little bit of a difference between the three. And there you have it. 3 trio Christmas sets. I hope you enjoyed these crafts today as much as I did. If you're looking for more fun and creative craft ideas, be sure to check out our next video. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you never miss an update. Thank you so much for watching, and until next time, craft more, stress less.